everybody, welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to review Rebel Moon, Child of Fire. Now, this movie and me have had a journey. So this movie came out on Friday. I'm reviewing this on Monday. We're getting closer to New Year's. Happy Merry Christmas, everybody. Late Merry Christmas. But Merry Christmas to everybody who's seeing this. And we're getting closer to New Year's. This movie came out on Friday, and it was funny because this movie came out with a whopping 9 on Rotten Tomatoes. And I know people don't always take Rotten Tomatoes seriously, especially after the whole scandal about that huge scandal that a lot of those critics get paid to give their Rotten Tomato scores. But that being said, that to me isn't a big, to me, the whole critics being paid thing is the difference between a couple percentages, right? It's the difference between 10% and 5 to 10%. I see a movie that was an 89 being labeled an 80, a movie that's a 79 getting an 85 instead because the critic being paid. But when the gap is that small, when you start your movie off with a 9, it is unequivocally, I said that word wrong, it is undeniably a shit movie. That's just is what it is. When your movie starts off with a 9 on Rotten Tomatoes, and even now, after all these days, after basically every review, after every critic / even anyone who has a Rotten Tomatoes, I don't know what you get to be able to vote on Rotten Tomatoes to have an actual vote on the tomato meter, but every one of those people, it's still only at a 25%. So at that point, when it's that low, that means this thing I don't care who's paying off who's doing what. Even if Zack Snyder paid off half of the people, it still would probably be in the 40s. That's how bad this movie is. Now, that's what I'm going into this movie expecting. That is my expectations. I'm actually giddy to watch this movie because I saw the trailers and I didn't give a fuck about it. Now, with a little backstory to this movie also, that's just me going into the movie. But a little backstory to this movie, this was a pitch that Zack Snyder had pitched to George Lucas a long time ago. Way back. I mean, this had to have been before Disney got Star Wars, obviously, for him to be pitching it directly to George Lucas. Otherwise, he'd have to pitch it to Kathleen Kennedy. So, clearly this was before Lucas sold it to Disney. So he pitched this movie to George Lucas. This Rebel Moon movie, and it was gonna kind of be his version of Star Wars. From what I remember, either he was just gonna do his own Elseworld thing, or he was literally going to do his spin on the original trilogy. Because when you watch this movie, you'll see what I mean when I get into it. And of course, Lucas was like, "Fuck no." Now I'm sure he said it a lot more nice, than "fuck no. I'm about to go sell this bitch for $7 billion to Disney." I'm sure that's not exactly what he said. And honestly, if you heard about some of the scripts that Lucas had for his sequel trilogy, it didn't sound that much better than what we actually ended up getting. Regardless of what some people think, I'm pretty sure that sequel trilogy Lucas would have been just as bad, if not worse. But I digress. Lucas turned down this pitch. Years passed, and there's also something that he talked about where he tried to actually pitch it as a comic book or a video game. I think he wanted to make it an animated series or a video game. That's what this kind of started off as. It started off as a pitch, but it was kind of just this would be a cool idea. And to me, I have a lot of complaints about Zack Snyder, but I can't deny that his mind, at least what he sees, it's this would be cool to him. And maybe other people too, but I can't imagine anyone who saw Sucker Punch thought it was a cool movie. That's one of the worst abominations of film I've ever seen in my life. Only thing I regret is I can't take watching that movie back. I've watched some bad movies. I've watched movies I want to walk out the theaters. I've watched movies I regret paying for it. I've never watched a movie I wish I could get the time I spent watching it back. And not for the time itself, but for my own mental sanity. That's how bad Sucker Punch was. But even in that abomination, in his head, he's like, this would be cool, or this would be interesting, or you know what I mean? So I can only see him pitching it to Lucas like that. And fair, watching Rebel Moon, I will tell you, even before I even get into the review, it may have been better as a video game or a comic book or an animated series. Maybe. At least it would have, like, some of the flaws of the movie would have been looked over. I'm saying all of this because I got nothing really good to say about this movie at all. It looks ugly, which Zack Snyder always shoots all his movies with this little hazy filter in the background anyways, but he turns that up to the max in this universe. Everything is this weird grayish orangish tint to it, so it doesn't look that great. The only thing good I can say about it is at least the aliens look kind of unique, even though you can tell what most of them are based off of. There's not an original thought in this movie. It is derivative of so many things. It's obviously a derivative of Dune, of Star Wars, of like you can throw a dart at sci-fi and it's pretty much a derivative on that of Seven Samurai. Like it just rips off so much, and that's not the problem because things rip off things all the time. But the problem is there's not enough originality in it to allow you to look past the things that are the same. I mean, for crying out loud, the story is literally a farmer, a farmer who's threatened, decides to go around, threatened by some, government, this evil empire is threatening this farmer, this farmhand, this quiet farmhand. She turns out she's a badass. She goes on this trip to collect all these other badasses across the galaxy to help train and defend her people. So and in the end, that's pretty much about it. But the problem with the movie is, I actually don't hate that fact about the movie. The movie at its core could be done well. The problem is, one, it's been done to shit. The whole Seven Samurai thing has been done to shit. Magnificent Seven has done it. Star Wars has done it. Like, so many damn things have done the whole, collecting people to bring them back to fight, thing. They've done it so often that it's not even funny anymore. But even then, if the characters were interesting, if the characters were fun, I would be willing to go along that ride. I've always said for years, the thing that allowed Marvel to be Marvel and get away with the things they've been able to do and get, because I made the argument before that I don't think the actual phases 4 or 5 are actually worse. I don't think people are willing to ignore things they were willing to ignore back in the other phases because they were so invested in the characters that you're willing to ignore certain things. And they're not as invested in these new characters, so they're not willing to ignore certain things they used to be able to. And this movie's a prime example of that. There are aspects of this movie that stick out like a sore thumb that I probably would have ignored if the characters were interesting. The main protagonist is just this brooding woman who breaks out in these elongated speeches about her past, and it's just okay, I get it. There's not much to her. There's no personality to her. They really kind of Snyder really wrote her blandly. And the one character you're supposed to get personality from, Charlie Hunnam's character, isn't in, spoiler alert, and I don't give a damn, he dies. And not even heroically, he just betrays them randomly, and then it's just he dies. And he was the only character with any personality. All these people they recruit choose to fight with her too easily. They don't fight it at all. They don't ask why. There's not a lot of work to get them. And that way, this would have that's why I say this maybe would have worked a hell of a lot better as a show. Because then you could have at least had each episode dedicated to her recruiting a character. The bad guy is just evil for the sake of evil. He's just an asshole. He's just an evil asshole. There's not really much to him. One of the big problems with this movie, though, is that it desperately wants to be rated R, and you can tell, and it's been edited to shit. You can tell, Zack Snyder has been going on and on and on about this director's cut version of this movie he has, and you ain't really seen my movie until you see the director's cut. And I'm like, why did we just get your movie? It's on Netflix, man. It's not in the theaters. We could have just got your whatever movie. Now, granted, it might have been 4 hours or something, and I'd be fuck that shit. You can kiss my ass, Zach. I ain't watching that. But still, I would have rather have you just put that out instead, because this movie is obviously an R-rated movie. They cut around things, certain sequences are obviously cut around. Certain sequences where it would be much bloodier, much more gruesome, and you could tell that there should have been blood there, that there should have been more blood here. And it's just weird the way this movie is edited together to cut out some of the more violent things. But honestly, I don't even want to go on and on about this movie. It's uninspired. It's bland. The main protagonist is bland. The villains are bland. They're just evil for the sake of evil. There's nothing original about the movie. Some of the aliens are cool looking, and even some of the ships are cool looking. But that's not enough. It looks ugly. The story is not only derivative, but lame. It ends lame. Like it's just, there's nothing. I've never given a movie this before. But by the time I finished this movie, I was like, yo, this is a straight up 3 out of 10, man. No, this might be a 2 out of 10 movie, man. This is straight up bullshit. This is some straight up garbage, bro. I never felt like, I was like, this ain't Sucker Punch bad. I've seen worse movies, but it's been a while. Yeah, I'd give this a 3 out of 10, man. I'd give this a 3 out of 10. This, man. And they got a sequel coming out. Whew. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me on the Comic Gamer Movie Show. Please comment below. Let me know. What did you guys think of Rebel Moon Chapter 1, Child of Fire. Child of Fire, yeah. Anyways, thank you guys again. I'll see you in the next one.